It's recording now.
Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay. So, as Trent said, Missy and I are in the U.S. right now. It's really easy for people to say that we are back home or we're visiting home, but Guatemala is definitely our home. So, yeah, so what we want to do tonight is just to kind of take a little bit of time. We invited a handful of people. I don't know how big a handful was, but we people that have been involved in Guatemala over the years since Servants has been taking teams there for 20 years. We've taken actually over 75 trips to Guatemala through Servants. To various locations, and all of you who are here or will be watching this playback have been involved with that at some level, have been to Guatemala or involved or have been involved with Guatemala. So we kind of wanted to invite you guys into a window of what it is we are currently doing in Guatemala, because all of you have a different level or time frame of experience with Servants in Guatemala. I want to kind of try and put all that into a nice little package for a few minutes. Some of you don't know anything what we're doing in Guatemala, and some of you have been there as just a couple years ago. So serving at-risk families is our mission, and it is the name of the ministry in Guatemala that we use or that we have. We use the term SARF, S-A-R-F. Originally, when we started, that was just kind of a way of us saying serving at-risk families a little bit quicker, like in office speak. But somehow that leaked out to the public, and now people that are involved with the ministry call it SARF. So if I say SARF instead of the Serving at-Risk Families Ministry in this presentation, that is why. So a lot of times people are like, what is this SARF stuff? What does it even mean? Do you just not know how to say surf? Or you guys go into Hawaii? Like, what do you do? The truth is, saying serving at-risk families all the time when you're talking about ministry kind of gets a little lengthy. So the ministry is based in Villanueva, Guatemala. It is one of the more quote-unquote dangerous areas. Even Guatemalans, when we tell them where we live, they ask us why we would even live there. And they literally fear for our lives. But that's where the need is. And truth be told, we actually haven't had any issues with crime or anything like that for the 8 years that we've lived there. So it is just 10 miles south of the capital, which is Guatemala City. And that's like about the center of the country. According to, it's even though it's only 10 miles south, it is like an hour drive from the airport, which is there in the city. So just because it's 10 miles away doesn't mean it doesn't take a while to get to it. That's just because of the way the roads are and the immense amount of traffic. According to the 2018 census, which we were there for, there was only 500,000 people living in Villanueva. But we know those numbers are actually a lot greater because people, I researched it because I was like, I want to give accurate information today, but it's not accurate. I know it's not accurate, so that's pretty funny. There's pretty closer to like 1 million people that live there. A lot of the residents there are like afraid of the government tracking them and stuff like that, so that's why they didn't participate in the census. Villanueva kind of serves as a quote unquote cheap suburb to Guatemala City. If you're from the York area, which I think all of you are, it'd be like York being this, being what it is to people who work in Baltimore. So it's a cheaper area to live, and people commute every day to work. Although there are a bunch of factories, textile and steel and other kinds of factories in Villanueva. That's where the majority of the official jobs come from in the area. As I mentioned, Servants has been serving in Guatemala for 20 years, starting with working in a children's home and also ministry out into the community, which is how Missy and I got started at the beginning, kind of the grassroots of the Serving at-Risk Families Ministry. And about 8 years ago, we moved there to actually start the ministry. Um, and since then, we've also led teams up into the Nebah area and around other areas around the country as they become available for us to um, send teams there. The whole idea of the ministry is to help families avoid the necessity of sending their kids to a children's home because with all the need that there is, it's easier for a family to drop their kids off at a children's home instead of feed them, send them to school, all that kind of stuff. So the idea behind the Serving at Risk Families Ministry is to help families become more self-sustainable and just help them find ways to interrupt that cycle of poverty. We have 3 local staff, 2 Guatemalans, 1 Honduran, and that work with Missy and I. And we all work together to make decisions and to figure out how to best serve the families, but we all kind of take our own different unique roles. Michi, she is a family representative, and along with Olga, who I'll talk about later, they visit the families regularly. They work on growing in a deeper relationship with the family so that they can minister to them spiritually and emotionally. They're constantly checking to see what their needs are, make sure everything's going okay with the family. They don't have anything emergent that they need. And of course, ultimately teaching them about Jesus and their value in life. Missy has worked to train them because when we started, that's exactly what she had been doing. But with us having to come back to the US, she's moved into more of a family coordinator position. So she kind of works to mentor Olga and Michi and making sure that they have what they need, not just physically, but also like emotionally. She supports them and helps them through the difficulty of serving the families. And but she also, one of the great things that she loves is just visiting with families as well. So Christian is our administrator. His primary job is to make sure all of the ministry's paperwork and accounting is taken care of. Because of the high occurrence of money laundering in Guatemala, there's a lot of rules and laws that we must adhere to, even more so than regular businesses, as the government's put a lot of restrictions to prevent money laundering. So we want to make sure that we follow the laws correctly, and that as a proclaimed Christian organization that we are in upstanding status, and we don't kind of like conform to the status quo of how business is done in Guatemala, which I will admit makes things extremely difficult. And that's why it's like a full-time job just to make sure that all that stuff is taken care of properly. But he also tries to be involved with the families and he helps with like family visits. He goes around and helps like make payments for the various schools for monthly tuition, which has gone to more online recently, thankfully, but there's still a lot to do with that. And also before COVID hit, he was helping me start to work on discipling the older boys of the families that we minister to. But social distancing made that more difficult. And then of course we came back here. So we haven't been able to do that as much as we'd like. I already mentioned a little bit of what Missy does. I am the director of operations. So I make sure that everyone's getting along well on the team, kind of work on team building, making sure that needs are being taken care of, things are coordinated, logistics of getting teams down, all that kind of stuff, but also working towards discipling the team so we can grow together spiritually as well as professionally. So knowing that we were coming back to the US for the next 2 years, or now we're in that, so Missy could finish her degree in couple, family, and marriage counseling, we started working towards our local team being more self-sufficient, sorry. And that's always been our goal. We want to provide a mechanism for Guatemalans to serve Guatemalans. even through the local church. um, and so since we've come to the U.S., we're still maintaining a connection with them. We meet at least once a week with them, either individually or as a group, for various things that we're trying to accomplish. And so this not only helps train them, but it also provides jobs. So we're currently employing 3 locals that are being paid because of being a part of the ministry. The struggle that we have as a ministry in Guatemala is that it's not customary for churches, like in the US here, servants has grown to where churches and individuals will support servants even though they're doing work here locally. That is not like a ministry model. It's not a fundraising model at all in Guatemala. So right now we are forced to raise their salaries because if a church is going to support a missionary, they're going to train them up and send them out, and the missionary is going to do whatever the church tells them to do. Not, this is a calling that's on my life, I'm going to go do it. Will you help support my salary? So, but we're hoping that with servants operating in Guatemala, we're able to kind of change that thinking. And that's one of the things that I hope to be able to do once we go back to Guatemala, is to start talking with organizations and churches about supporting servants in the work that we do, and empowering the churches themselves to do the very same thing, just like we do here in the US. This way, the ministry won't be solely dependent upon funds that come from the US like it is right now. Olga is also the Honduran that I mentioned. She's actually the newest addition to our team, but we have known her for about 8 years now. Her family actually used to be one that we served as a ministry. As time went on and she recovered from a life of abuse, she married a Christian man and grew in her own relationship with the Lord through the church that we also work with. We watched her servant's heart grow, and she started to volunteer to help in the ministry. If you have been down the team with the SARF ministry, you probably miss her cooking. And Trent's giving a double thumbs up on that one. So we started to we started to pay her to help us clean and maintain the ministry center, as well as cook for teams. And she continues to, would continue to share with us how she loves helping people, or how she is already helping people in her own community. And so we identified her as somebody who, as she continues to grow, that she would be a valuable asset to the ministry. So eventually we asked her if she would like to intern with us as a volunteer to learn more about, our methodologies, how we serve, to kind of learn some more of the behind the scenes stuff that we do as a ministry. But what she didn't know is that we were actually testing her out to see how she jived well with the team. Was she trainable? Can she grow? That kind of thing. And we didn't really doubt that she could, because we had known her before doing that. But we just kind of wanted to see how all that would work, seeing as she never really had an official job. She just finished her 6th degree education, is moving on to middle school as an adult. And her just desire to grow and learn, is just amazing. So in a place where unemployment is around 50%, people will say, they'll do anything for a job. So we've had multiple offers from people like, hey, do you have any job positions open? So what the first thing we'll do is we'll say, well, we don't have any positions open, but we're looking for volunteers. And so if your desire really is to serve, then you would willingly come on to be a volunteer. And that gives us the opportunity to see, how good of a fit you are with the ministry and all that. And so that's kind of what we did with Olga. And of course it worked well. So we've been able to bring her on this October. And but we're currently only employing her as a part-time employee, because we have to continue raising funds to pay her for full-time. And there is a ton more to her story. It's actually really hard for me to keep all this information in a tight time limit. So, but you can read her story more on the MySARF website, which I think Trent sent out in the invitation email. But we will send it to you again after this call with the video link, so you guys can check that out. the COVID situation this year had us focusing more on life sustainment than growth, just because of the economic shutdown in Guatemala. Usually, most families can fend for themselves for food. Um, but when the government shut down the majority of the commerce in Guatemala, those sources of income kind of disappeared. So we were helping with monthly nutrition baskets. And as the restrictions lifted, most families have been able to make money again, selling things at their home or finding jobs locally, whether it's in construction or cleaning or anything like that. So we're slowly helping them kind of, get the momentum going again of where they're earning for themselves. And the kids also struggled because school was moved to online classes, which made learning quite difficult as they're not used to that. And I know that students here in the U.S. had similar struggles, and so it's just been kind of an uphill battle on that front, and still trying to figure out what's going to happen next year as far as school is concerned. They're pretty much not going to find out until last minute if they're doing online, if they're going to do physically, if there's going to do some kind of hybrid mix. And so we're waiting for January to come so we can figure that out, so we know how to best support the kids in their school. Now, aside from us missing the lack of snow in Guatemala, we are also missing some other things it happens during Christmas time. We usually try to organize some sort of activity for the kids and the moms as well to enjoy themselves. We've had like sleepovers, we've had bonfires with s'mores. We do cookie days where we invite all the kids over to make cookies and feed them so mom can like rest at home, or we'll even send a meal back if the moms come, so they don't have to worry about cooking. And then we also usually provide some sort of goodies basket for each family, which we are still doing this year. But since it's difficult to have big gatherings, we're just kind of focusing on the baskets and making sure the families are taken care of. In the upper left corner there is a picture. If you are unaware, at midnight on Christmas Eve, the entire country lights off fireworks. And when I say fireworks, I don't mean like sparklers and those little, smoke bombs. Like they literally like shoot off the big ones all over the place. So it's going to be very quiet for us this year for Christmas, but that's kind of what we're missing right now. So last year or this year, we weren't able to host any teams to Guatemala. And the previous year, we did have one team that went down. But we are looking forward to taking some folks down in 2021. Obviously, we can't predict when restrictions will be lifted enough for us to take a team down in an effective manner. Right now, you have to quarantine for 2 weeks, or get a COVID test within 3 days of your trip. That just makes it almost impossible to coordinate, especially for 1 or 2 people, let alone whole team. But we also don't want to be taking anything that we could have down to the families. One thing that we realized this past month is that none of the families that we serve have actually been infected with COVID, which is a miracle in itself because the majority of them live in less than ideal hygienic situations in their homes. And so they've all been able to avoid that, which has been awesome. But with our teams, we get a lot of folks who say that, they can't do any kind of construction work, or they don't have any medical expertise, which is like the typical missions team. But our way of taking teams down is different. We focus on the relationships, building relationships between the teams that come down and the families that we serve in the community, instead of just doing a project. Instead of people from the US just coming down and doing work themselves, we want to employ the locals and provide more jobs for them instead of taking work away from them. And so the teams that come down provide the funds necessary for the materials and to employ the locals, while we use as an opportunity to connect on a deeper level with the families themselves. So We might have a little bit of work to do to maybe help with some of what we call like the heavy lifting that's better done like in a team environment. But that doesn't take away from the people that we employ to do the work. And so we use that. We have discovered that that is the most impactful way to help others, is that we provide employment, and then we also build a relationship with the families we serve. Guatemalans really struggle to believe that someone or a group of people from the US would take time off work and spend money to come to their country just to spend time with them and love on them. America has become this idealized, like, holy land to Guatemalans. That's why there's so many people that are immigrating to the US, with a lot of Hollywood involved, which is attracting them. But the fact that somebody would come and just spend time with them for a week, cook a meal for them, spend time in their home and play with the kids and ask them how life is going and pray for them and stuff like that. It just leaves a lasting impact that it's hard to really even believe, let alone explain. For those of you who have been down and have done that, you know how it is. Like, the connection doesn't leave you. And this is actually a better way to interrupt the cycle of poverty, because as Americans, we tend to focus more on the financial poverty that exists. But you can give someone everything that they need physically, and they'll still have an impoverished mindset, which is exactly what our battle is against. So they might have thoughts like, I'm not good enough, I don't qualify, I'm not allowed to flourish, this is as good as my life will get. But by loving others through a relationship, we can show them that Jesus says that they are good enough as children of the King of Kings, and that, yes, they are worthy. So we don't have any teams planned yet, although we're hoping that we could start planning one for July at the earliest. That should give everybody enough time to raise money and take time off work and stuff like that. This past year, we were trying to kind of come up with, a virtual missions trip of some sort, but the logistics of that was really difficult, especially with the restrictions that they had in Guatemala, visiting the families while we're trying to maintain distance so that they don't get sick. Timing and all that was just really difficult. So that's why we wanted to kind of put together this call. And we're hoping that this is something that folks would be interested in doing at least every couple months until we can start taking folks down there again. Not sure if you guys would be interested in this. You can comment when we get to our questions part. But we're hoping we can do this and at least have a constant conversation going about Guatemala, ways that we're trying to help, what the team is currently doing, where the families are at, and what we can do from here to help there before we are able to actually go down. So some ways that you can connect, if you're not connected already, is at this time of year, we always have what we call our backpack campaign or our back to school campaign. Because school is, you have to pay to go to school, unless you go to the public schools, which are shut down right now. We focus a lot on interrupting that cycle of poverty by sending the kids to school, because the majority of the families are undereducated. And so by sending the kids to school, we're able to help them get better job placement. And instead of like working in the fields for just $1 or $2 a day, they're actually able to get hired by companies and to flourish, so that their families that they create and raise up don't have to live in the same conditions they did. Kathy graduated high school this year. She's there with her mom with her diploma. She was able to go in and like get her diploma and take a picture in front of school. They didn't have an actual graduation. She graduated as a bilingual secretary, and so she's going to be looking for a job, and also wants to take more English classes to further her ability to speak English. Carla also, she's actually the girl / woman there in the middle, holding the smaller girl in the top right. She's going 11th grade. I want to say as a graphic designer, but I'm not 100% sure. That might have been her sister who did that. So other ways that you can connect is through family sponsorships, which you can learn about on the MySARF website. It's mysarf.servants.org. We'll send you a link. Also, prayer is our number one asset. Praying for the continued protection of the families, God's wisdom on how to serve them, obviously help in raising support, whatever that looks like. And then also staying connected with these calls. We would like to, like I said, this is the first one we're doing, so we're really interested to see how we can continue to keep folks connected and interact in this way and kind of present what's going on. So, oops, what did I just do? There we go. So that is pretty much it. I did stay within just about half an hour. Which is really difficult for me to do, especially when talking about Guatemala. But so I want to see if you guys have any questions. If you can't hang around, that's cool. We'll still send you the video link. But before we open the floor for questions, I have a question for you all. At the very least, because I'm curious, and you're not going to hurt my feelings if you say no. But would you be interested in doing something like this again, obviously with different information?
This is Holly. I would be willing and look forward to something else.
Cool.
Hi, yeah, this is Paul Springer, and yeah, I would definitely be interested in hearing more and doing another meeting and getting filled in with what you guys are planning and how we can be involved. That would be very interesting.
One of the topics we've thought about doing in the future is having the Guatemalan staff on. So we would have to do it in a different format so we could translate for them as far as the presentation would go. But that'd be something I think everybody would enjoy, is being able to touch base with the staff.
I would definitely be interested in doing this again. This is Missy. I'll come to anything that involves Guatemala. So just let me know. I'm there.
Does anybody have any other questions? Yeah, comments.
Two. First of all, one's for Trent. Michelle Michi, has she been there like working for servants since I was going down?
She's been working for us for about 4 years, do you think?
Okay.
Yeah, she volunteered for about a year, and we were working towards raising her salary before we could bring her on. And yeah, so she's been with us for a little bit.
Oh my gosh, she looks great.
Yeah. I'm always teasing her about finding her a husband. So.
Because I think she was, what, in her early 20s?
Yeah, she was on our first trip. I think she was about 16. That was 2000, 2001. She was 16. So.
Yeah. And then it was a year or two before I started going. So yeah, she was probably 18, 19.
Right.
And the second question I have is, what do teams look like now that you're not doing things at the children's home? I mean, I know relationally and all of that, but like, do you go down there with a plan so the team members kind of know what to expect, and then you do the relational stuff subliminally?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you want to answer that, Dylan, or do you want me to answer that?
Yeah, I'll answer. So that's a really good question. I'm glad you asked it. So what we try to do is to get to know the team before they come down, and kind of feel out what the team, depending on who's on the team, there's different skills and abilities, right? So there, we have done things from hosting a Mother's Day event and cooking all the moms and the families we serve an Italian dinner and just giving them a day where they get to relax and not worry about anything, to building a retaining wall because a family's home was getting flooded, to doing like a carnival day. There was a team that came down and taught crafts like knitting and crocheting so that the moms, the women could make stuff and sell them. So a lot of it comes down to, once a team kind of forms, we try to interact with the team and be like, all right, what do you guys have in mind? What do you want to do? How do you like to serve? We had a team come from Texas, and some of them actually speak Spanish. And so they went to the church at night when everyone got off work and taught them like life skill, like Bible lessons. And yeah, so it was kind of like, what the team that's together, what skills do you guys have to offer? What do you want to do? And we try to line that up with needs in the community. And so through that, we're able to do those things. And there's sometimes, depending on the time of year, that we might have an idea in mind, like the team that comes down around Mother's Day, we kind of like focus on that. Midsummer is when the kids have off, and so we try to do a big birthday party for everybody, because we can't do a birthday party like every month or something. So we try to do like a one time a year. Literally all of the families get together and we take them all to the pool or go to a park or do something crazy like that. And we've even had a family come down that had been to Guatemala a couple times and came down on a team. They wanted to come down. They brought their family down over Christmas break and did a whole bunch of stuff with the families. That's kind of where we started doing like the sleepovers and the cookie days and all that kind of stuff. So it really depends on who's on the team and how many people we have, and we kind of go from there. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but
Yep, it sure does. Yep. Thank
Yeah,
you.
we had the young family that came down, the Cross family, which is amazing to see how big they are now. But they came down, and he was a photographer, and so he took really great family photos, like individual and family photos for the families, because they never had that opportunity. And then we got them developed and gave them as a gift to the family. So when you look at our MySARF website, if you go on MySARF, a lot of those photos of the families are from that trip that he went on.
Any other questions? Preguntas.
Where do you stay now when you go down?
Right now, it would be our house.
Oh.
We were renting a building as a team house to host teams and stuff. But with us coming back, we kind of downsized, and especially not knowing when we're going to have teams again.
Yeah.
So when we started the ministry, we moved into a 3-bedroom house. 2 of the bedrooms had bunk beds in them, and those were the rooms the team stayed in. So when we downsized, to save on money and stuff, we just set those rooms up again with bunk beds. So Paul and Christina remember that. I think Wendy has a question. Oh, no, I just want to make sure you're paying attention. Told you I was going to do it. So.
Great. If there's no more questions, just want to thank everybody again. Just be in prayer as we prepare for next year. This is kind of this kids are off school right now, but they're heading back to school in January. So be praying that God would provide for their back to school needs. We usually pay about 80% of the tuition costs in advance. So that's all comes up due next month. So we have a fundraiser that we do every year this time of year that we're raising funds. So pray about that. We'll be sending out links to the video, to the video and those giving links if you want to share it with anybody else that you might think is interested in learning about Guatemala, or maybe they've been thinking about going on a trip. That video that we just did would be a good one to share for now. And then, yeah, just when we schedule the next one, we'll let you know and encourage folks to come on board. We had about, I'd say 5 or 6 other people who were signed up tonight, but they're probably out shoveling. So we realize how that goes with Zoom. It's about a 50% attendance rate for people that sign up. So thanks everybody. Have a good evening and a great Christmas if I don't see you before that.
You
Thanks,
as well.
Dylan.
Thanks, guys, for tuning in.
Yep. Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Thanks for putting this together. See you guys.
Adios.
And Merry Christmas.
Feliz Navidad.